Hi, I'm Randy Hollenbeck, and this is the Music Roundtable. Today on the show, we have Jamey, bass player for Dead Eyes.
How's it going?
I wanted to jump in a little bit of history on how you started playing bass, what age, get into some background.
Sure. Yeah, so I started pretty young. I was about 11. My best friend at the time wanted to start a band. We were in like 5th grade. And he bought me a bass from a thrift store. Like a $50 really not great quality bass, and I still have it. I still play it. It's a great bass actually. And from there I just got involved with bands and taking lessons, self teaching teaching myself and playing guitar tabs and stuff. So kind of just grew up.
Do you remember what the first song you learned how to play was?
I do. It was Other Side by the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I remember sitting in my sister's bedroom listening to her CDs, trying to figure out what songs had cool bass lines, and that was the one that she actually picked out for me to learn first. So
So, would you say you're kind of like influenced by Flea, or
yeah, I mean a lot of funk influence here, R&B, Motown. That's all my dad listened to. So even disco, uh, lots of '70s stuff, lots of '60s stuff. Stevie Wonder, Bee Gees, Carole King, America, like tons of singer songwriter stuff, which is like interesting bass lines, honestly. So it's kind of where my passion comes from.
so you would say Flea would be like your influence on bass? Is there any other bass players that stand out to you?
I mean, I'm a huge Victor Wooten fan. He's great. Bella Fleck's awesome too. A lot of his work has some great bass lines in it. Stevie's probably like that's like Wish and Sir Duke. The bass line of Sir Duke is like I played it at my wedding. It was that's probably my favorite bass line of all time, Sir Duke.
What are you currently listening to as far as music?
Bunch of stuff. I'm kind of all over the place. A lot of stuff like kind of in Dead Eyes' main vein, like Architects and Normandy and Wage War, Bad Omens, that kind of stuff. But I'm on a weird kind of streak of pop music. Like Paris is really great, or PVRIS, or however you say it. I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Paris, but their stuff's awesome. St. Vincent's really, really cool. But then I always go back to my roots of just 90s grunge, and I fall back into Soundgarden and, all those guys and Incubus and some new metal stuff and, Corn.
You guys just released a single, Breaking the Current, back in May. How's the response been since you guys released that? Has it you noticed the growth?
Yeah, it's a little overwhelming actually. It's been very positive. Octane, Serious Octane, has spun us 120 times since we released it. And for a unsigned independent band, that's kind of a big deal for a satellite radio station to pick us up like that. Um, our fans seem to like it a lot. It's a little bit different than our older songs, also with a different singer. But it it feels really good. It was a song that we all thought was going to be like only musicians are going to like this song for whatever reason. It's very complicated. There's a lot of melodic changes and it flows. um but we weren't expecting such a outpouring of support from our fans and from listeners, and it's been really awesome to see that.
Yeah, that was kind of like one of my questions about the intricate guitar parts in that song. There's so much going on. Every time I listen to it, I catch on something more and it sticks out and it makes me even like the song even more. But there's like different breakdowns in there, and then you go into a melodic breakdown, then you bring it back up. And it's not, did you guys map that stuff out?
I'm pretty sure this was written in the studio when I was between bands. So I wasn't a part of the writing process, but I'm pretty sure that this was the brainchild of two different songs that we kind of slammed together. I could be mistaken, that could be a different song, but I know that there was a series of 3 or 4 songs where like we took specific parts and threw them into other songs because they just fit better. Um, like I said, like this song, it's written for a musician. You know, there's so much going on that only a musician would pick up on the majority of it. But for an average listener, I think that there's a hooky enough chorus and a hooky enough like verse and breakdown even, that they can grab onto it and accept it, and it's great. Compared to the rest of the album that has not been released yet, um, this is probably the most technically complicated one. Um, but there's always going to be some heavy breakdowns and some cool riffs and stuff like that. But this one melodically is definitely the most complicated.
How did you get your song on Sirius XM radio?
Our singer Zach is really good buddies with Vince, who works there. I'm pretty sure he's the production manager. I don't know. We had done the previous song "Prisoner" back in 2019. Now, geez, way before COVID, before I was in the band. This is like right before I joined the band. They released the song "Prisoner," um, and they had hooked up with SiriusXM then, and just established a relationship. And we were excited to push that again, and we got on their basically like their test drive, their Octane test drive, and we were up against 2 huge songs, and they ended up putting us in some sort of rotation, which was really really cool.
What have you done in the past year since the lockdown?
Me personally, or the band?
Well, as far as both, both.
I was fired in March of last year, so I was pretty bored. I spent a lot of time sitting on video calls just like this with our guitarist Jim, and we wrote tons of stuff. I dove really deeply into graphic design, and I started my own clothing company. So I've been doing that for about 7 months now. That's going amazing. But aside from that, the band, we've just been working endlessly on this record. It's one of those things, we had it done in our hands in 2019, like before, or 2020, like before COVID happened. And then COVID happened, and it was like, I don't know that we should release anything yet. Let's wait a little bit. And as we waited, more good things kept happening. New relationships arose, new opportunities arose, and like a lot of things I can't really talk about yet. We have a partnership with Twitch right now, so we're doing live streaming for them. They've been awesome. So for the next 6 months, we're doing really hard pushing on like the music side of Twitch, which is cool for our fans because they get to see the behind the scenes of us writing, behind the scenes of us like designing merch and doing all that kind of stuff. But the relationships we formed with some people on the back end are incredible. Really, really cool stuff happening locally for us soon. I can't really say anything about it, but it is with a national sports team if it happens. So that's really awesome. Um, but the longer we've waited and the more impatient we've gotten, more cool stuff has happened. So it's like a really kind of a weird catch-22 where we really want to get the songs out, but let's take our time with it. Let's stick to the plan and make sure that these releases are really cool.
Now, when do you expect the album to be released?
It will be released before 2022. I can say that much. We're looking at a later in the year, December, late November, I believe, at this point. We should have another single out in the next month or so, maybe 2 months. So
When you were guys were locked down and you already had the album finished, did you go back and listen over to that stuff and add anything to it over that year?
yeah, we've uh, we've remixed them several times now. um, all for the better, which is good. But it's one of those things like you're never gonna get it perfect. Every time you're gonna hear something that you might want to change or something you might want to add or take away, and we finally got to a point where we're like, okay, no more changes. They're good to go. We're solid on them, and we lock and keyed them, so nobody gets to touch them anymore. But the temptation is always there, being two of our band members are like serious producers. The other three of us dabble and want to get to a higher level with it, but um it's difficult. We're perfectionists. We want to put out the best product we possibly can and hope that people love it, and so far they have, so it's good.
I know there's been a lot of lineup changes throughout this band over the years. Could you tell us how you came to be into the band? Did they put out like an ad looking for a bass player, or how'd that happen?
Well, I was in a previous project called Rise Among Rivals, um, with Jim, our guitarist, currently in Dead Eyes. Um, we were on a tour with Smile Empty Soul in February of 2019, and on the back end of that tour, Jim was asked to play with Dead Eyes. And Jim ended up leaving Rise Among Rivals to play with Dead Eyes. I had another opportunity arise where I was going to play bass for another touring band, which fell through. Um, and by happenstance, by luck, they shifted some things around and brought me on as a bass player in April. So it was kind of a weird thing, but it worked out. Uh, I I had a really good time in Rise Among Rivals, but I think Dead Eyes is a better fit for me. I think Jim would agree with that. Jim's actually been my long term best friend since we were kids. We were in a high school band together. We parted ways for college, and then we magically ended up back playing together years later. But um, it's a good group of dudes. And before that, Zach, our singer, he was more of like they put out an ad and found a guy. I'm not sure if there actually was an ad put out, but he was from Wisconsin. They lost their current singer. They were trying to find someone else, and he drove 24 hours across the United States to come to Pennsylvania on a whim, and ended up joining the band. And that was like a year before Jim and I joined, roughly. Um, so he'd been just dropped his entire life to come out and do this. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, he had a lot of faith in you guys and put in 100%.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
For someone to do that, to just drop everything and join a band like that, that should bring that band closer together. Like they're tighter, they could rely on each other for stuff.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
What is the DeadKru?
So the DeadKru is like our elite super fan base, essentially. We are developing it to be more of a group of people that we can activate to help the communities around us in different ways. We instead of doing a traditional meet and greet at a show, we want to go the route of doing like, hey, we're gonna go to a soup kitchen, meet us there, come hang out. We're gonna feed people, or we're gonna go clean up this river or clean up this highway or anything like that. For anything that really like is important for those communities, especially if we're touring the U.S. We care about the U.S. We care about the health of our country's community. That each individual community has their own issues. Like Flint, Michigan still doesn't have water, so like that's something that we can help with in some capacity if we're playing a show in Flint. So that was kind of like the dream of the DeadKru is to create it into this complex but not so complex fan group where people can get involved, and we can actually make a difference. So it's kind of what we're going for, and still in a very we have around 1,000 members, but it's still in a very infant stage. We haven't been able to tour since COVID, and really like setting up these types of activations is not easy to do, but for people that want to get involved with the band and be collaborative with us, that's the best way to do it.
Where's your band currently based out of?
The U.S. No, actually Baltimore, Maryland. But Zach, our singer, is down in Nashville right now. He's working for our producer Kyle Odell, and so that does throw a little bit of a wrench in things when we need to practice. But like we come in knowing our stuff and we're good to go. But the lot of us are in the Maryland area, greater Baltimore area.
Do you have any tour dates or anything coming up you're playing out anytime soon?
We don't have anything on the schedule as of now. We are working with our booking agent to get some stuff set up. I know that the industry is kind of in an odd point right now where everything that was booked last year has just been bumped up to new dates and bumped up again and bumped up again. So we're trying to find something that we can hop on if we can, but also fine with any show opportunity that arises as long as it fits in our schedule. With Zach, especially being in Nashville, we need to like make sure that we can do more than just one show at a time, because it doesn't really make sense for him to come out just for one show, unless it's a really, really good show. But we're working on getting some weekenders together, coming into the fall, looking at like late September, early October at this point.
How do we get a hold of you guys? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram?
Yep. All of the above. Twitch.tv/DeadEyesMD is our Twitch. Pretty much everything right now is DeadEyesMD for Maryland. So Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook.
Anything else you like to add before we go here?
Just keep rocking, keep supporting smaller bands. It's a really interesting digital world out there. But as shows come back, remember that like we've been out of work and the venues have been out of work for months and months and months. And it's important to keep supporting any way you can.
Swinging for the fences, yeah, I've been living reckless. Face down in the dirt, but I'm okay. I say, yeah, there's no